Good morning, good morning. It is so wonderful to see you all here. I'm Catherine Falk, the Market VP for Cox Communications in Northern Virginia, and it's my pleasure to be here with you today. I'm a proud resident of Fairfax County and also a proud member of the Board of Trustees for Inova, so it's with immense gratitude that I welcome you. Happy Digital Inclusion Week. That's what we're here to celebrate, and what a better way. What a better way than having 100 plus professionals here who are supportive of the work that we are doing in the community. So let me just review the agenda today. Let me welcome our first speaker today. Pearlie McBride is the Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer for Cox Communications, where he's responsible for finance, accounting, business operations, strategic sourcing, supply chain, everything. And Pearlie joined Cox Communications in 2018 with more than 25 years experience in communications. He's worked as a CFO for many other companies, including Frontier, Cable and Wireless, Cricket, and Leap Wireless. He lives in Atlanta with his wife, where he's engaged in a board for curing kids with cancer. And he is a graduate of Mount Allison University and an MBA from the University of Houston. He also is the former CFO of the Weather Channel, so maybe he can give us some insight there. But he's also the proud dad of 3 girls. So Pearlie, thank you so much for joining us today. We welcome you.
Thank you, Catherine. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here today. Just so you know, it is my pleasure to welcome all of you to the 2nd Annual Digital Equity Summit. So thank you all for being here and spending time with us this morning. I would like to thank Dr. John Monahan, who's now president of the Clinical Enterprise at Inova, and Karen Maribe, also for inviting us here to use your facilities. Thank you very much. Inova, like Cox, is very committed to digital equity, and we appreciate all the work that we've been doing together over this time period. I'm also honored to have in attendance also Chairman McKay. Thank you for being here. I appreciate that. And also Supervisor Harity, also for being here. Thank you very much. Or also many, many nonprofit leaders who are here with us today in attendance, so thank you. You know, your presence underscores kind of a joint committed effort with respect to digital equity in the communities that we serve. And Cox has been dedicated to bridging the digital divide for over 10 years now through a number of programs that we have. We've empowered more than 5 million customers through our programs, and we've committed hundreds of millions of dollars to extend our reach to the underserved and rural communities that we serve. And despite the end of ACP, you know, Cox remains committed, as it always has been, to bridging the digital divide. We are driving connectivity through a number of efforts, and hopefully, if you get a chance, you can see some of our efforts in the back there through our teams that have brought this. But we've had our Connect to Compete program in place for a long time now. It's for qualifying families with school-age children. We also have our Connect Assist program, which is also for qualifying families who participate in assistance programs. These programs have been in existence for a while, pre-ACP, and remain in existence. We also have a number of rural expansion efforts to make sure we are delivering broadband to all homes that are in and around our communities. And we also have a program called PCs for People. You know, it's a partnership to connect Cox customers with affordable refurbished devices. Digital equity is very important to Cox in all of our communities that we serve. And I will tell you, we've now, with the launch of Cox Mobile offers affordable data plans starting at $15 per gigabit per month. And if you actually combine your Cox Mobile plan with your broadband, you can receive even more discounts on your broadband service. As you heard, I'm also excited to reveal today our new Digital Equity Partner Portal. And so the Digital Equity Partner Portal was designed to make partnering easy for organizations that want to join our mission of bridging the digital divide. Whether it's through an ambassador program, digital navigator, or through sponsorships, there are ways to get involved, reach more people, and begin making collective impact with us today. Cox also has a wonderful ambassador in Super Bowl champion Malcolm Mitchell, who last year visited schools here in Fairfax County and across the nation to support the importance of reading. Malcolm has just published a book on the subject called A World Within Reach. We'll be donating copies to the Inova Children's Hospital and every elementary school in Fairfax County and all the Boys and Girls Clubs in Fairfax County as well. Cox Mobile and our commitment to digital equity are both key areas of our business strategy to, one, extend our network to more homes, and also expand our services and our reach within our customers and communities. As the demand for fast, reliable broadband continues, we've taken proactive steps to enhance and extend our network and our high-speed fiber-powered network at that. And by the end of this year, we'll have multi-gig speeds throughout our footprint across the US. And here now today in Fairfax County, we already offer multi-gig speeds on our network. And so if we work together in lockstep towards our shared vision, we can make great strides in improving the lives in this community and beyond. Thank you again, once again, for your dedication and partnership, and let's make this year's summit a huge success and a beacon of hope for change in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Next, I am so pleased to welcome Jeff McKay, Chairman of the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors, a lifelong Fairfax County resident. He was born and raised in the historic Route 1 corridor in Franconia District. He attended Fairfax County's world-class public schools and graduated from James Madison University and the UVA's Sorensen Institute for Political Leadership. Jeff has more than 20 years' experience working on behalf of residents of Fairfax County, first serving for then Supervisor Dana Kaufman as his chief of staff before running for the Franconia district supervisor role, and then chairman starting in 2019. He's been a champion for education, for equity, affordable housing, transportation, and revitalization and the environment in Fairfax County. Currently, he serves on the DMV Moves Task Force, a first-of-its-kind initiative charged with improving regional transit. We all support that, right? He's also active in the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, the Metropolitan Council of Governments. He serves now on the board of Inova Health System and also a past chair of the Virginia Association of Counties. His work has been recognized far and wide with so many different awards. Jeff lives in Franconia with his 2 children and their retired racing greyhound. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Chairman Jeff McKay.
Well, good morning, everyone. The retired racing greyhound comment usually gets a good laugh from people, but yesterday that retired racing greyhound had 21 teeth pulled. And so we had a fun night last night. So I'm glad there's coffee here this morning. But in all seriousness, it is great to be with all of you. And I do want to sincerely thank so many people for coming to this. I've come to this for many years, and I'm always amazed at the attendance and the energy that's in the room. And this year is like past years where that is tremendous. I do want to acknowledge some of my colleagues. I know we're going to hear from Supervisor Harity later, but Supervisor Alcorn from the Hunter Mill District is here as well. And I'm looking at Supervisor Palchik's chair right in front of me because I know she's on her way as well today. This issue of digital equity is so important to our county and to our Board of Supervisors, and was mentioned by Catherine a few moments ago, an integral part of our One Fairfax initiative. And we just celebrated on Tuesday the career and the next chapter for our Chief Equity Officer, Carla Bruce. Many of you in the room probably know Carla, and so we did a lot of talking on Tuesday about this importance of equity and the journey that we've been on in Fairfax County. And the reason why this is such an important part of One Fairfax is because that initiative is now a policy in Fairfax County that requires our Board of Supervisors to look at equity in every single decision that we make. And what I love about today is we're talking about equity, we're talking about technology, we're talking about kids and economic development, we're talking about health, we're talking about the importance of our for-profit and not-for-profit partners in Fairfax County and how we're all working together on this issue of connectivity. And all of those pieces are integral to the success of Fairfax County. And when I think about the One Fairfax policy and how it began over a dispute at that time between the Board of Supervisors and the school board over how we were going to fund our Title I schools. And Supervisor Hudgens and I at the time were quite irritated that the schools at that time had prioritized some programs at the expense of others. And at the expense of others was reductions to programs in our Title I schools that were building up our most challenged youth. And that dispute led to the creation of a successful children and youth policy team that exists between county government and schools to work on issues specifically that our young people are challenged with that relate to equity. That was the driver behind it. And out of that came a real intentional look at some of the racial and socioeconomic challenges that people in our community face. And to be candid with you, failures of every level of government to intentionally look at equity as an essential part of our policy-making infrastructure. And so instead of just creating programs, how do we get to the root causes? And this is important because if you look at a map of Fairfax County where digital inequity exists, it follows an economic pattern in a lot of areas. Certainly there are areas that are more rural in the county where this may be a challenge that's not based on economics, but foundationally our challenges exist in areas, islands of disadvantage in the county as we refer to them. And when we think about connectivity today, we have to think about this like we think about every piece of infrastructure or critical utility. It's that important to the livelihood of people in Fairfax. And I told a story on Tuesday about one of the first times our One Fairfax policy was instituted and worked to the benefit of all residents in Fairfax was a story that one lady told me. And she told me that she had lived in her apartment complex on Route 1 for decades. And she was a single mom raising her kids, and she worked around the corner from where she lived in a minimum wage job and had been toiling at that job for many years. And she worked there because that's the only place she had time to get to. She didn't have transportation, and she worked extra hours because of the wage that she was getting paid. And one day, a Fairfax Connector bus sign stop popped up at the entrance to her neighborhood. And she asked me how that happened, and I said, well, we took to heart our One Fairfax policy, and we said, we're not going to decide where to put bus stops based on where we have technical right-of-way, where we have VDOT agreement or an easement to be able to support it, or where it's convenient for the routing of the bus. In fact, we're going to look at putting bus stops where we know there is need for transportation. And by putting that bus stop at the entrance to her neighborhood, she was able to get on a connector bus, go to a better job, work less hours, get home earlier at night to spend more time with her kids who achieve better in school as a result of it. It literally changed her life. And we think about, for a long time, this county has thought about what's the path of least resistance? Where can we put a bus stop where some angry person is not going to be upset that it's in their front yard? Or where can we put a bus stop where we don't have to go to eminent domain? And instead we said, where can we put a bus stop that builds up people and gives them chances for opportunities for success? That is a mindset shift. And that is why we need to think about this issue in that same framework. I was mentioning to Catherine when I came in that all the way back in 2013, 11 years ago, way before the pandemic, I did a board matter on this subject at the county, getting our county staff directly pointed towards looking at the digital equity pieces that we are here talking about 11 years later. And in that board matter, it mentions some of the challenges, especially our young people face with connectivity and how that actually affects our teachers as well. Because in some cases, they're teaching a classroom of kids that are at a different level with digital equity, almost means they're teaching two classes. And that's a problem for all of us. That's a problem for the teachers, the parents, but most importantly, it's a problem for the kids in that classroom who are trying to learn. And that was in 2011. And at that time, I was applauding Cox Communication for their engagement and their efforts to, with the Connect to Compete program to get kids signed up for internet that they could afford, parents to sign up for internet that they could afford. 11 years ago, That was before the pandemic hit and kids were stuck at home learning, before many people in this room might have been stuck at home working on their computers. And so this issue's been around for a while. And 11 years later, as we stand here, there's a lot to be proud of. We have made some pretty huge steps forward on this subject in that time period due to the work of many people in this room. But we also know we got work left. We wouldn't be here if we thought this mission was accomplished. And when I look at the statistics today, we know that 3.3% or 14,000 Fairfax County households still lack a broadband subscription. So some people say to me, wow, 3.3%, you guys are doing really good, until I tell them 3.3% in Fairfax County means 14,000 people. It's a lot of people still, and so that percentage was a lot higher at one point. We're driving that down. 1.6% of Fairfax County households lack even a computer. And again, 1.6 doesn't sound like a lot until you think about that 7,000 people in Fairfax County that lack a computer. Just a computer. I mean, how many times a day do we rely on computers to do just the fundamental things in our lives? And then 30% or 26.7 thousand eligible households in Fairfax County are enrolled in our affordable connectivity program. And think about that. I mean, that's 30% of eligible that are enrolled in that. So that tells me that that's great for that 30%, but what about that 70% that's eligible, that's not enrolled, and what can we collectively do to help them understand where these programs exist? And to many of us, this is overly complicated. I think I speak for all of us in the room to say this should just be a lot easier. But if you think about the families that we're talking about, who already have very complicated lives, navigating their way through and figuring out where these opportunities for affordable internet connectivity and equipment and training and education exist is nearly impossible. And that's why this particular program and your help in this room is so important. When I look back at the pandemic, we often said to people, and I remember getting calls from the governor at the time. It was a very proud moment for us in Fairfax County because I had Governor Northam calling and saying, Jeff, how in the world are you doing so well on equity as it relates to COVID and as it relates to getting vaccinations done? And I said, well, we have a sophisticated core of for-profit, nonprofit partners in Fairfax County that we rely on every single day, so we're not strangers, people like Inova, where we're sitting today. But the most important asset we had that many people didn't think about was our messengers. And so there's a lot of people out there that will look at a government program and walk out. It's too complicated, don't want to interface with government, don't trust what they're telling us. And so what we did during COVID is we relied on our nonprofit leaders, our faith leaders, our business community to message to their own people an appropriate message about COVID and precautions that can be taken. That same thing exists for this, because people, when they're trying to sign up for broadband, will take a message of simplicity from Cox or a message from the nonprofit they're working on to get affordable housing or substance abuse counseling or mental health counseling. If those partners of ours can share ways for people to make connectivity happen, that is way more powerful than us just alone telling that story to folks. And that's why the partnerships of all the people in this room are so darn important. And so I want to thank all of you for your engagement. I want to thank our Fairfax County team. Our One Fairfax team is here, but across the spectrum of Fairfax County, where we are working on this with our partners on a daily basis. I know our head of IT is here from Fairfax County. Thank you for joining us. We're all in on this and continuing to work on this challenge, because until 100% of our eligible families and community members have access to the internet, our work continues, and we know how essential it is to everything we do in life. And I do really appreciate Inova's involvement in this as well, because this is not just about, can you get online and get a job or pay your credit card bill? Those all things are important to the economic success of our individuals, but as we know, we're living in a day and age where literally our own health relies on our ability to connect and to connect electronically. If you think about where telehealth has gone and opportunities for people to be able to meet with their doctors without taking a whole day off of work, I mean, those conveniences and opportunities out there are important to everyone in the community, because when we're all doing better from a health standpoint, we're all doing better from a health standpoint, and that means all people, including those who are challenged to be able to digitally connect today. And so this work continues, but I do appreciate all of your collaboration on this and look forward to seeing these numbers continue to go down in Fairfax County. And for those hard believers in One Fairfax, that is literally changing lives of people every single day in Fairfax County. We don't just talk about equity, we get equity done in Fairfax County statistically in every way, and this is another example of that. So thank you all for having me, and good luck today.
Thank you, Chairman McKay. And I want to point out that I think we have in the room the new Chief Equity Officer for Fairfax County. Tony, do you want to stand up? Tony has been in our community for a long time, but 2 weeks in the job. So make sure she's one of those people you do speed networking with. And I also want to acknowledge my own supervisor and neighbor, Walter Alcorn. Thank you so much for joining us today. As we move on, I have to acknowledge my neighbor, right? As we move on, thanks again, Chairman McKay. And I am now pleased to welcome Dr. Michelle Reed. She is the superintendent of Fairfax County Public Schools. She has served as the superintendent since 2022 and is committed to delivering excellence, equity, and opportunity in education for every student. When she assumed her role, or since she's assumed her role, Fairfax has been developing and implementing a new strategic plan. She has a STEM background with a proven track record of improving math and science proficiency, and a strong believer that success does not happen without success in STEM and literacy. Prior to FCPS, she focused her career in Washington State, where she was named an AASA National Superintendent of the Year in 2021. She has a doctorate in educational leadership from the University of Washington, a master's from the University of Washington, bachelor's degree from the University of Puget Sound, and an advanced leadership certificate from Harvard. Please welcome Dr. Michelle Reed.
All right, good morning. It's hard to follow Chairman McKay and hear about all the things that are happening. And I appreciate being invited back, Catherine. I think this event is so important. And it's important because we're here, right? We all have shown up and the topic is critically important. The digital equity, when you think of this century, there isn't a topic area that's more important, I think, for our children, and our children represent our future because as they go, so go we, right? They're our most important, I think, treasure, and I consider it, again, my honor to be able to serve, to be a part of shaping the future with our young people. So I want to thank our elected folks who are here and all our nonprofits and just everyone in the room, because I know that when we make decisions, just a really wide variety of perspectives make our decisions better. So I want to just share a couple things. I'll be relatively brief. I think I was asked to be relatively brief. But one of the things that I think is important to note is we think about digital equity, I think, in the aggregate and sort of macro terms. And so I'll give you a couple macro data points. We have over 60,000 children that qualify for free and reduced lunch in Fairfax County. Over 60,000 would make us the 6th largest school division in Virginia if those were our only students. So we have a significant number of children who, when they go home, often do not have access to resources that other children do have access to. And among those key resources often is online or e-access. And that matters today, and I'll give you a few reasons why. One of the things we've recognized about our young people is the importance of mental health. right? And also we've recognized that there are not sufficient numbers of local counselors, therapists, services, and resources. So we've moved to online telemental health services for our secondary students. And if you're at home at 10:30 in the evening and you're in a crisis and you need to go online to access mental health services, it's possible that more than 60,000 of our students don't have access to that because they may not have access to high-speed internet to access online telemental health services. For me and for our division and for our young people, it's a life and death conversation. It's not really just a conversation around excellence, equity, and opportunity in sort of an academic sense. It's real, and it's now, and it's pragmatic. I also think about, and again, this is not related necessarily to online access, but the recent FAFSA, I don't know if we want to call it fiasco or however we want to characterize that, but our young people trying to apply for financial aid for post-secondary education has left a huge backlog of what we would characterize as traditionally underserved students who need financial aid to move forward into post-secondary education, who were not able to access the FAFSA forms. Many of them, I would argue, close to 60,000, maybe not able to access forms from home, and the backlog even in the school site has been enormous over the last calendar year as the federal system was not able to be rolled out really thoughtfully. So I think that those are just two examples, and I want to share a little bit why each child is important. And I want to take us all back, and I don't know, I won't comment on the age of all of us in the room or mine, but some of you in the room remember when No Child Left Behind first began, right? Early 2000s. Do you remember that the reason No Child Left Behind, this got lost, I think, really sprang from Alan Greenspan, right? This was actually an economic decision and an economic initiative. And when Alan Greenspan came out and said the Federal Reserve would not be able to be sustainable with Social Security if every child didn't graduate work ready, and why was that? It's because in the 50s, and I'm going to paraphrase, we had roughly 5 or 6 workers for every retiree, but they projected that by 2020, thanks to our incredible health care, right? But by 2020, it would be roughly 1 worker to 1 retiree because people were living longer. So if there's 1 worker to every retiree, what has to happen? Every worker has to be employable and contributing to keep the Federal Reserve running so Social Security wouldn't. That was the genesis for No Child Left Behind. As I think about that today, that means every single child has to have access to quality education, quality services, quality mental health, quality telehealth, right? And so that makes this, I think, such a compelling conversation. And it forces us not just to have this as an academic conversation, but to make some key action steps and move forward with those. And quite honestly, E-rate advocacy is another topic, I think, that really is part of our conversation. The other piece I'll just share is that when we think about Digital Inclusion Week, I also think about the abundance of our multilingual learners and community members for whom English is not their first language. And in our case, we have over 30,000 students that are in a profile where they are multilingual learners. And so recently, one of the things I had the opportunity to do is visit with Sal Khan, who has been the mind behind Khan Academy. And we talked about what would it look like as it's increasingly difficult to find high-level math and science instructors, for example, in public schools. What would it look like if we created avatars, right? Multilingual avatars that could teach complex content. Like if this entire wall, and I love this because my background's chemical engineering, but if this entire wall was actually an avatar that was instructing us in multilingual languages and differentiated and dynamic instruction that's self-corrected on any kind of complex linear algebra, differential equations, concrete math, that would bridge a multilingual divide, right? Because that avatar could speak and instruct in any language. And then children could go home and have that tutoring support in their language so they don't continue to stay behind in content even as they learn language acquisition skills. And we've talked to many young people about the importance of that. In fact, our Time Kid of the Year, nationally, Time Magazine's Kid of the Year is a sophomore here in Fairfax County Public Schools, Heman Bakella, Woodson High School. And by the way, Heman's mother teaches for us as well. She's one of our teachers. But Heman, I went out to visit with him about what was important in his development, because he came to our country in kindergarten from Ethiopia speaking no English. So he started in kindergarten as a multilingual learner and is now spending weekends at Johns Hopkins working on cancer research as a sophomore. So I'm going to tell you that we need tools so that each and every bright mind that is a part of the fabric of this community has the opportunity to achieve their hopes and dreams, which are really our hopes and dreams. And until we can resolve this and have clear plans in place, that's not going to be our reality. So I am so hopeful that we've come together today to be that group that's going to make that difference, so every bright mind has that spark fanned, right? Like we're able to really come together and create a space, learning spaces and community spaces where that's the norm in Fairfax County and not the exception. So anyhow, I'm thrilled to be here. Catherine, thanks for inviting me, and I look forward to learning more this morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow, I learned a lot from that. And another plug for another Fairfax County Public School student, Dr. Reed. We have a contest we run every year called Cox Conserves Heroes. And we nationally run this contest. And there is a finalist who is a 16-year-old from James Madison High School. His name is Hunter Guthrie. And he's in the final running for $30,000 in grants, because he realized that 6% of global greenhouse gas emissions stem from food waste. So he started a nonprofit that collects extra food after school and in the morning from food producers in Fairfax County, and instead of sending it to the landfill, he donates it to nonprofits so that they can feed 700,000 meals. So vote for Hunter Guthrie for Cox Conserves Heroes, another great student. So thank you so much. I'm now very pleased to welcome a wonderful member of our community and leader, Supervisor Pat Harity. Supervisor Harity represents the Springfield District on the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors, and has 40 years experience in the county, active in business, sports, civic, economic, civic community leadership and experience. He's a lifelong resident of Fairfax County, graduated from West Springfield High School, and earned his college degree from Virginia Tech. He's held many senior management positions, chief financial officer, chief operating officer at many local government contracting companies, which are so important to our community and our economy here. He's been recognized with so many awards from the Northern Virginia Tech Council, the Fairfax County Chamber of Commerce, and has a unique perspective as having grown up as the son of the longtime chairman of our Board of Supervisors. He's a business and community leader. He chairs the board's Information Technology Committee and Sports Tourism Task Force, and previously chaired the Older Adults Committee. He remains active today as a coach and a sports community supporter, and we are so proud to have him here today. Thank you and welcome, Supervisor Pat Harity.
Well, thank you, Catherine, for that wonderful introduction. And I want to start by, I was here for the first one, which we had in Tyson's. So this one's much bigger, which is always a good thing when you see it grow. I want to thank Cox, Inova, FCPS, our county staff, and all of our community partners for helping make this a big success. Thanks to Inova for hosting today. You know, it's amazing, an amazing crowd of community partners, and it really does take a community to solve any of our issues, including this one. I'm not going to repeat what you heard from any of the other speakers in terms of how digital access has become a necessity for our residents. And it is not just, you know, education, it's telehealth, it's online banking, it's social networking, it's really ingrained in our life. And I think the pandemic really accelerated that when you look at what happened with our businesses and work from home. What we've got in front of us is an even greater challenge with AI and some of the other technologies that we need to make sure that we don't leave people behind as those technologies develop. So this is not just a problem today, it'll be a problem going forward, and the way you solve problems is get smart people together in a room and figure a way forward. For our most vulnerable residents, including our older adults, digital access is still an issue, and we need to work on it. Fairfax County earlier this year developed a 5-year plan to build and improve on existing efforts to close the digital divide in Fairfax County. One of the goals of the plans is to focus on greater collaboration with schools, local colleges, employers, and other business sectors to build a workforce with in-demand tech skills. Building tech-ready workforce, as well as helping local technology startup businesses thrive in technology-driven society, will contribute to economic competitiveness and overall success for all of our residents. So I'm pleased to see this summit's bringing together internet service providers, businesses, Fairfax County Public Schools, county government departments, nonprofits, and faith-based groups to work closer at addressing these issues, not just the issues of today, but the issues of tomorrow. And with that, I have a board proclamation. I'd like to invite my colleagues to come up as I present it. Interestingly, I now chair the board's IT committee, used to chair the older adults committee. Walter and I flip places, so he's the former IT chair and current older adults chair, and I am the former older adults chair and the IT committee chair. So I'm going to read the proclamation. Whereas 7/11 is Digital Inclusion Week, a national annual movement to raise awareness and foster collaboration for accessible, affordable, and effective internet and technology for all. And whereas the ability to use digital tools is essential for many tasks in modern life, including applying for jobs, paying bills, completing homework, staying informed, and connecting with government and community resources. Whereas digital equity helps businesses and individuals thrive in a technology-driven society and contribute to the county's economic competitiveness. And whereas over 20,000 Fairfax County residents lack access to computer at home or an internet subscription, are also living in neighborhoods with high or very high vulnerability. And whereas Fairfax County and Fairfax Public Schools are committed to ensuring digital access and opportunity for all Fairfax County residents through cross-sector collaboration and coordination of digital equity efforts, now therefore be it resolved that the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors, on behalf of all residents of Fairfax County, does hereby proclaim the week of October 7th through 11th as 2024 as Digital Inclusion Week in Fairfax County, and urges state representatives, educational institutions, internet service providers, local community-based organizations, faith-based groups, and the business community to work together to close the digital divide for all of our residents. And that was approved unanimously, so thank you all.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Harity. We're honored to be with you here today. Now I'd like to welcome State Senator Jennifer Boysko. Senator Boysko represents the 33rd District, where she focuses her efforts on creating an economy that works for all by improving our schools, workforce training programs, fighting for equal pay and paid family and medical leave, and supporting businesses to create jobs while advocating for our diverse population and those residents that don't have a seat at the table. She served in the House of Delegates from 2016 to 2019, and since 2019 has served in the State Senate. She currently serves on 5 committees: General Laws, Technology, Judiciary, Privileges and Elections, Rehab and Social Services, and Transportation. But really importantly for today, she chairs the Broadband Advisory Council and is here today because of that. She was at the table in 2017 when the Commonwealth put forth a goal of achieving universal access to broadband, and she's been a leader in broadband policy ever since, and we welcome you today. Thank you so much.
Well, it is good to be with you all. I want to thank Cox for hosting us today. Again, it's good to be back with you. Inova for sponsoring the event and allowing us to be here. Fairfax County Government and Public Schools for your commitment to equity in Fairfax County. And for all of you for taking the time out of your day to be here with us. And I want to just echo again, happy Digital Inclusion Week. I am Jennifer Boysko. I represent the newly created 38th Senate District, which is Northern Fairfax County, and it has the most socially, economically diverse population, I believe, in the entire Commonwealth. It is known as the most wealthy, but also a number of Title I schools. And I live in Herndon and have lived there for nearly 30 years with a very diverse population of people who have horse farms to 15 people living in a townhouse. So I am very well aware of the challenges that we face in Fairfax County and in Virginia overall. I come from Alabama and Arkansas in a rural area, and so I have made a commitment in the Commonwealth to address issues throughout the diversity that we have in Virginia. And one of those things was in 2016, I asked to be a member of the Broadband Advisory Council because I recognized that there was a real dearth of service and what that means to the people who are living in communities without service. And so our efforts to create universal broadband has really been an excellent example of collaboration with the federal government, with our elected leaders in Washington, with our local governments like Fairfax County, our private sector, and our local nonprofits. We have made great strides over the past decade to close the digital divide, and our Department of Housing and Community Development staff is recognized as leaders around the nation. I go to conferences, and you're going to hear from Dr. Holmes in a few minutes, but she's a rock star, and she has really led the way, as well as Virginia has really led the way in creating a process that allows us to harness funding that gets more infrastructure in the ground so that people have access to the internet. In 2017, we began really targeted efforts creating the Virginia Telecommunications Initiative. We call them VOTI grants to partner with our local governments, with our ISPs, and we provided targeted state local grants to these individual counties so that they could get affordable broadband infrastructure built in their communities. They have focused on connecting homes, businesses, community anchor institutions like schools, libraries, hospitals to access to affordable, reliable internet. You may be aware that back in 2021, when the pandemic was so revealing our, requirements for broadband. President Biden signed the Infrastructure and Investment Job Act, and that act included a significant investment of $65 billion to help close the digital divide and ensure that Americans have access to reliable, safe, high-speed broadband. And that built upon funding that they also put in with the American Rescue Plan, the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021, and the FCC's Universal Service Program. Additionally, the USDA's Rural Utilities Service broadband programs. And so in that December in 2021, Governor Northam at that point announced a really aggressive plan. When I joined the Broadband Advisory Council, we had $1 million to spend. That year in 2021, he said, we're going to close the digital divide within 10 years. And as of now, we've invested over $2 billion with a B dollars, with public and private dollars to invest in broadband. This historic investment lays critical groundwork for widespread access, for economic opportunities and jobs, access to increased healthcare services. We've been talking about all the different benefits of having access, and it is making a big difference. There is a clear recognition that providing access does not ensure that all people automatically have access to the internet, and so over the past few years, Senator Mark Warner has worked with my office as well as other legislators and our policymakers to be focusing on what we need to do around affordability. And you may be aware of the BEAD program. That is the Broadband Equity Access Deployment Program. And President Biden this past year has committed $42.45 billion to expand high-speed internet access by funding planning, infrastructure deployment, and adoption programs in all 50 states. This is on top of all the work that we've already been doing with our VADI program, which has already, lowered the divide very significantly. This year, on July 26th, the NTIA, the National Telecommunications Information Administration, approved our broadband equity access and deployment proposal. This action enables the Commonwealth to access $1.4 billion of new money allocated to the adoption of the initiatives. And it is one of the very largest grants in the entire country that has been provided. The DHCD, Department of Housing and Community Development, who Dr. Holmes leads, announced the initiative of the application process that just began last week on October the 1st. And the first phase of the 5-month program application process begins with a 60-day letter of intent window, and it closes on the 30th of November. That's followed by a 90-day application window anticipated to start on the 1st of December. This timeline is subject to change as NTIA and DHCD finalized the list of eligible post-challenged BEADS locations, and those are the unserved addresses around the Commonwealth, and we will have that information on the website. During the 2024 General Assembly session, because as we were working on our budget, we needed to make certain that we were including possible uses for this BEAD money. And so I worked with NTIA to get the information from them. They came back and they made it clear to us, which we put in our budget, that the uses of BEAD funding could include user training, respect to cybersecurity, privacy, and other digital safety matters, remote learning or telehealth services, digital literacy and upskilling from the beginner level to advanced, computer science, coding, cybersecurity education programs, implementation of the eligible entity digital equity plan to supplement but not to duplicate or supplant the planning grants with the received by the eligible entities in connection with the Digital Equity Act of 2021, broadband sign-up assistance and programs that provide technical support, multilingual outreach to support adoption and digital literacy, prisoner education to promote pre-release digital literacy, job skills, and online job acquisitions, digital navigators, direct subsidies for use towards broadband subscriptions where eligible entities show the subsidies would provide affordability for the end user population, cost associated with stakeholder engagement, including travel and capacity building, and other allowable costs as set out by the group. I'm so pleased that we have had a really close collaboration with our providers, including Cox. And as you all are aware, the affordable broadband programs, the Affordable Connectivity Program is no longer being continued as of now. But the providers have made it very clear that they are committed to working collaboratively to make certain that localities and individuals have that access to those. So there are a number of different plans that are continuing because of the generosity of the businesses. In 2021, one of the interesting things, and as we were talking about how the schools and the individuals in the schools have so many people on free and reduced lunches, a lot of the schools around the Commonwealth didn't feel confident that it would be okay for Cox or other of these providers to send home information to let the families know that these programs are in existence. So I actually had to carry legislation and passed it that allowed them, gave them the permission clearly to say that it would be okay for Cox or other entities to have their information passed out to the schools so that people on free and reduced lunch knew about the programs, because that's one of the big problems is that people just don't know. So what I'm excited about in the BEAD programming is that there is going to be a big outreach. There's going to be a lot of community engagement. We've already started on the Broadband Advisory Council to receive input from groups like the NAACP, from local governments. We had a presentation from our library system. You may not be aware, but already in place, many of the libraries have pods where individuals can come in and have telehealth medicine or other private and confidential meetings at their local libraries. So we are continuing to work on that. We know that we are not all the way, we haven't fixed all the challenges. Some of the big challenges that we still continue to have are around workforce. There are not enough technology people to actually put the infrastructure in. There is an enormous permitting process and easement and things like railroads and other kinds of really wonky challenges that you wouldn't think about that are a problem for getting the infrastructure in the ground, but we continue to work with them collaboratively to make sure that we have access to that. We reserved a pot of money to continue with our VODI program as we are ramping up with the BEAD program in the Commonwealth, and we look forward to continuing that collaborative work. We are well positioned in the Commonwealth to continue to lead in all assets of the closing the digital divide through our VODI program, as well as with the BEAD program. And we will continue to be here with you to listen to what the needs are. My office, I'm always open. I give my cell phone out to everybody who asks for it, because I think it's really important to have an open door to listen to what the challenges are. But these successes that we are celebrating, honestly, are going to provide last mile broadband for people who need to connect their lives to make Virginia the best place to live, work, and play. And I'm so pleased that this is a bipartisan issue. This is one of those things that when we have legislation around it, goes through unanimously or nearly unanimously. Our approach to the universal broadband and access and affordability is a model for other states. Our BEAD funding will complement our efforts over the past decade to support our commitment that we in the General Assembly, as well as Governor Youngkin and the visionary commitment of former Governor Ralph Northam have made, that do actually make Virginia the best place to live, work, and raise a family. And I'm just so happy to be here celebrating with you all Digital Equity Week. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As Dr. Reed so aptly noted, digital equity and health equity are so closely connected. And we are so pleased to be here at Inova's Conference Center, and they are such a terrific partner. So I'm thrilled to welcome Dr. John Moynihan, the president now of Inova and the chief of clinical enterprise. Dr. Moynihan, recently selected for the role of president. He's been with Inova for 25 years as a community doctor integrated in their system. He, throughout his career, has been a leader in surgical education at both the graduate and undergraduate levels, and has really had a focus on advanced surgery, advanced technologies and innovation, especially with the Advanced Surgical Technology Education Center here, Aztec. He's board certified in general surgery, Phi Beta Kappa graduate of Holy Cross College and Georgetown University School of Medicine, and we are so pleased to have him here today. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Moynihan, and thanks for hosting us here at Inova. Come on up.
Thank you, Catherine, for that warm welcome, and good morning, everyone. On behalf of Inova's Board of Trustees and our leadership team, it's truly an honor to host all of you today for the second annual Digital Equity Summit. And I won't rehash many of the comments made earlier during the previous speakers' discussions, but your commitment to digital equity and your responsiveness to our community's needs is as crucial today as it ever has been as we navigate the complex and ever-changing landscape in healthcare. Inova's mission is to provide world-class healthcare to every member of the community whom we have the privilege to serve. To be able to do that successfully and anchored in that mission is our ability and responsibility to understand what matters most to our patients and their families. We were able to understand that even better under Karen's leadership through a recent equity-focused community health needs assessment. And we reviewed health differences by race, ethnicity, income, gender, and zip code. And we found, I'm sure is no surprise to you, and we've heard it earlier today, that chronic conditions, mental health concerns, access to health care, nutrition, and obesity rose to the top of the concerns within our community. All of which, as we've heard today and we all know, can be significantly improved with increased digital connectivity. But we also must realize, and I know all of us do, that the critical connection between digital connectivity, particularly in healthcare, and equity is not where we need to be. Healthcare has and is on an accelerating and rapid pace to blend IT solutions and digital healthcare. You heard about telehealth today and making appointments online and getting questions answered about your health. We have an opportunity together to bridge that gap through transitions to improve that access. But those transitions are challenges for many members of our community. Stop and think about it for a moment. Not everyone has digital access, but even more importantly, digital literacy varies widely across our community. So in striving for that equity, we must be responsive to those challenges. We must look for digital solutions that are designed with inclusivity in mind. That means not only providing the hardware and the tools, but the training and the innovation and the access so that no one is left behind when it comes to their healthcare and digital connectivity. We must remember that digital equity should be more than just an initiative. It should be an imperative for all of us so that it's integrated and applied in every level of healthcare for our community, our patients, and our families. So today, as we go through the rest of the morning and the afternoon, let's share our best practices, learn from one another what we can do differently, and commit to actionable steps that will lead to some meaningful change for our entire community. Thank you.
I'll put in a plug for one of the digital things that Inova does, the MyChart. Inova MyChart is so helpful. I use it all the time. I'm grateful to be a patient customer here. Now we want to welcome our final speaker before we take a break and go to our panels. So I'm thrilled to welcome from Richmond, Dr. Tamara Holmes, who is the director of the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development. where she is responsible for the Office of Broadband and all things broadband in Virginia. She has served the Commonwealth of Virginia for nearly 9 years as a program manager for the Virginia Appalachian Regional Commission, and starting in 2019 as the director of the Office of Broadband. She has a long history in civic service and holds a bachelor's degree from Drew University, a master's from the New School, and a doctorate from VCU. It is said that Dr. Holmes is the one that all of the peers in the states turn to as the expert in broadband. And so we are so grateful to have you here. Please welcome Dr. Holmes.
Good morning, everyone. As Senator Boysko, who has been a fearless leader in our General Assembly, and I want to say maybe the longest serving member of on the Broadband Advisory Council, has been a strong leader in making sure that it's not just about access, but also adoption. And so as Senator Boysko talked earlier about the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program, I need to give y'all the magnitude in which we're going to be working over the next several years. I jokingly say that Governor Northam at the time set the goalpost at 10 years. That would have been 2028. And then the federal government with the new investment set the goalpost at 2032. I am trying to retire at some point, and the goalpost keeps moving. And so we'll see how long I'll be around. And so I have had the pleasure of serving as the inaugural director of the Office of Broadband at the Department of Housing and Community Development. That also works not just on infrastructure access, but also focusing now on adoption of internet. And so when we talk about the $1.48 billion that the Commonwealth will receive through the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program, I need you all to understand that because we are so further ahead than many of our states, other states and territories, we've been, as we like to say in government, been doing broadband before it was cool. And so we are way ahead of many other states with getting access to broadband. And so I know I'm in Fairfax County and I'm talking about access. You'll be surprised that if you look at the map of what areas will qualify for BEAD funding, for the access funding, that's us building, not us building infrastructure, but our partners building it, like Cox and other companies across the state. It's not Fairfax County that has 90+% coverage in broadband, guys. There is one locality in the state that actually does not appear on any of our maps that lack access. It's actually the city of Norton in Southwest Virginia. And so there are locations within Fairfax County that lack broadband based on federal mapping. And so when we talk about access, it's not just about the infrastructure, it's also about devices and other things. And so I'll touch about that momentarily. And so I wanna ask who in the room are with nonprofit organizations? By raise a hand. Okay, a lot of you. I need you guys to take plenty of notes. And when I say notes, not just notes of the money that I'm going to talk about and the access to the dollars, but there's also a note card on your table that if you have any questions, you just write your questions on there. That was my instructions from the Cox staff. And so I'm going to now try to click and talk at the same time, which is actually one of my biggest challenges. And so I'm going to pull up my slides here. All right. And so Senator Boysko talked about the BEAD funding. So your first note is $1.48 billion to the Commonwealth for the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program. It is estimated of that $1.48 billion, $1.1 billion will be used for infrastructure. So quickly do the math. About $300+ million will be available for all the things that we do to get folks to use the internet. So for us, it's not about getting access to every home and business in Anchor and Virginia. It's also about making sure folks know how to use it in a safe manner and have the devices to use it as well. And so that's your first note. The second note is, in addition to the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program, there's additional funding under something called the Digital Equity Act. And so what the slide up here shows are the different uses of the digital equity funding. And so you heard Senator Boysko talk about a list of items from NTIA about all the things we can do with BEAD money. The Commonwealth is blessed in the fact that we can also use BEAD money and digital equity access money to address what we call adoption of the internet. And so I'm not going to read the slide verbatim, but we did receive a grant through NTIA to do a state plan. And so for those of you who don't know, we developed the Commonwealth Digital Opportunity Plan. And I'll talk about that a little bit. We use the word opportunity in Virginia government now. And so you'll hear me say digital opportunity throughout my presentation this morning. And so through that $1.2 million planning grant, we developed this plan that really, we did a statewide survey. I know Fairfax County has done their own digital equity plan, and they're also part of the work we're doing statewide as well, because you guys are actually a model for digital equity planning. You guys are further ahead than a lot of other communities. And so we developed a statewide plan in partnership with stakeholders from across the state, and I'll give you a little bit of the findings from that. And so then there's a capacity grant program, and so that's a formula allocation to the state. And so we will, this is your other note, receive $18.3 million through digital equity funding from NTIA. And so you heard me say 300 plus million, plus another 15 million will be available to support organizations that help communities focus on adoption. And so there's a laundry list of eligible uses of that funding. I will not go through those in detail. And so I want to kind of tell you where we are at the state, because what's important is how fast will we get the money out, right? And so our timeline right now is really solely dependent. You heard Senator Boysko say we have to wait for NTIA for approval. And so it's not just around the access money, it's also the adoption funding through this resource. And so we are currently in the end of we're almost at the end of 2024, wow. And so we are in the process of finalizing what our grant program will look like. And so we're right in between where you see digital equity, state capacity planning and program design, and grant application and awarding funding. And so what you will hear me discuss later during this presentation is what areas of focus we will look for funding applications for. And so that's why I asked those of you who with nonprofits to raise your hand. And so we have submitted our application for the $18.3 million, and we're currently waiting approval. I do know that the state of Nevada was the very first state to receive approval. I am very competitive, guys. While we're a national model in broadband infrastructure access, we are a little behind in terms of adoption. And I think you all know that because you're in a county where you primarily have access, but there's some inequities about how folks access the technology. And so what we don't want to do is create additional inequity as we get folks access to broadband as well. And so this funding will allow us to address those needs. And so I wanted to share a little bit about our statewide survey and what came out of the survey. And so what we heard across the state, there were about 7,000 surveys completed, all the way from Northern Virginia down to Southwest Virginia and across over to the Eastern Shore, that two of five respondents can access the internet, but they use their cellular data. Well, I will tell you that, and I hope there's no cellular companies in here, the cell phone is not a replacement for a device. It is a tool in the toolkit to access the internet, but it is not a replacement for accessing the device. I will tell you, I have Gen Zers in my house, and them filling out a job application on a cell phone drives me crazy. And they have laptops, and so just imagine our families that don't have access to devices in their home. The next thing that came out of their survey is that 45% do not have access to their internet in their community, and 29% can't afford it. And then the other stats, which I won't go through in detail, one thing that's important, and I think it's important because we're at a health center, is that folks responded they're comfortable doing basic things on the internet, but less so with accessing doctor's appointments. And so that's very important. And then the last thing I'll share, because I think this typically is an issue up here, is folks did not know that there are internet programs that provide some type of support for low-income families. That's one of the things we heard, and this is even with the removal of the Affordable Connectivity Program at the federal level. And so folks really just are not aware of many companies providing low-cost plans. And I know Cox does a wonderful job of advertising and marketing their internet essentials. Connect to Compete. Lord, sorry, wrong company. Connect to Compete. Can't keep it all together some days. And so I know they do a wonderful job with making sure community residents know about that resource. And so I want to share with you the goals in our plan. And so, of course, one of the goals is address access and affordable. And so Virginians will have access to affordable, reliable, high-speed internet. And so I will tell you that one of the things I've learned over the years in this job is that the reason a lot of communities don't have access is because, of course, businesses have to make money, right? And so the return on investment really was not there for many internet providers. And so our VADI program, as Senator Boysko talked about earlier, provides that subsidy payment, that subsidy funding that allows a provider to go in communities. And so that's something we've been doing since 2017. And then the next goal, digital skills and literacy. We heard the word literacy a couple of times this morning from various presenters. And so our goal is also that Virginians will also have access to digital learning resources and sustainable devices. And then the last goal is not only will we get access there, not only will we make sure folks are literate and be able to access the internet, but also they're equipped with the knowledge and skills to fully utilize broadband services in things like small business development. Also around where our highest economic driver in the state is ag, to make sure that we're investing in technology that supports precision ag and smart farming, whether it's at your home or your business. And then, so now it boils down to, well, what is the Commonwealth going to invest this funding into? What are our focus areas for the $15 million? Well, it's 18.3. Got to take a little bit of money for administration and compliance and all the other things that the federal government has. And I don't preach to the choir because you all, if you're from a nonprofit, you all know about reporting and compliance. And so you'll see the purple buckets up here, well, purple circles. And so we're getting $18.3 million. Approximately $3.5 million of those funds will be used for administration. And then we're also developing, and it's interesting because we're creating a lot of new acronyms in our office lately. They're calling it the DORT. I don't quite like that acronym, but it's the Virginia Digital Opportunity Resource Tool. And so it's going to be a hub where folks from Virginia can go and find out about local resources around digital literacy training opportunities if someone does device distribution. And so will be us compiling information from groups working across the state in those manners. And then we're also going to partner with communities to do digital opportunity awareness initiatives. So for example, if a community or a nonprofit wants to host a digital navigator night, where you have folks that will train other people on how to navigate the internet in person. And then we're calling our grant program, and this is the other note for y'all, the Digital Skills, Literacy, and Distribution Sub-Grant Program. And so our buckets will focus on organizations that work on digital skills and literacy programs, digital navigation and tech support, also device refurbishment and distribution programs. And all these have to focus on what the federal government is calling covered populations. Does anyone know what covered populations are? I see a couple of nods. Okay. So covered populations are, as the federal government defines it, it's a list of about 8 to 9 populations, people that live in rural communities, people that are seniors, people of a member of a racial or ethnic minority. About 81.1% of Virginians check one or more of those boxes. There's a laundry list of them. And so there are very few folks that live in Virginia that don't check one of those boxes. And so the federal government, through these funds, we have to target what is considered covered populations. And so while our goals talk about all Virginians, there is a targeted effort around audiences that are falling in one of these categories. And so you'll see some examples. Maybe there's a training on cybersecurity, scam and financial trainings for seniors. Maybe there's a course on using telehealth, applying for jobs. Maybe it's a group that's training young folks or older folks to learn how to refurbish devices. My understanding is that if you learn how to refurbish a device, that can be entry-level IT skills being developed. And then the last piece is really just talking about, I know 2 of our goals focus on people that have disabilities as well, because they also need devices to access the internet in a different way. And then folks that are incarcerated, that is a population that we definitely have to figure out how to target through partnerships with maybe the Department of Correction or local parole or probation programs across the state, because there's a learning gap that happens while they're incarcerated. And so I want to share with you some additional resources. And so is anyone here not from Fairfax County? Where are you from? Atlanta. Richmond, okay. And the reason I'm asking is because I know Fairfax has developed a digital equity plan, and I know we are potentially in partnership to do some additional funding. And so this is a funding resource. So remember all this money, guys, lots of money, $1.48 billion. Of the $1.48 billion, $300 million will support adoption. And then the 18.3, of which 15 million would support programs across the state. And so we also have a grant program right now where we're funding $25,000 that's been set aside for every locality and tribal government across the state to develop what we're calling an affordability and adoption program. And so, as I said earlier, Fairfax is ahead of a lot of communities across the state. You all have done a lot of assessment of community needs, kind of what resources are needed. And so this allows other communities to do that same level of assessment. And so what we're really looking at is who are the players in communities that are doing device distribution? Who are the folks doing digital literacy? You'll be surprised. I know we talk about the libraries being a key partner, but you'll be surprised how many faith-based organizations and small nonprofits are doing digital literacy training and may not even realize they're doing it. And then it also talks about if there's a pilot or a case study someone wants to implement in a community as well. And so, again, we're moving from accessing the internet, access through infrastructure, really around access around adoption of internet services and resources. And so then I just want to share with you where grants have been funded thus far. And so we are still touting this program. In my entire career of 20-something years of giving away money, I've never had such a hard time giving away money, ever, in 23 years of being in the government, giving away grants. And so I don't know if folks are exhausted from all the money that's coming out or just capacity is limited. And so we did want to share kind of what we're seeing across the state in terms of folks that are accessing that $25,000. I will tell you that not only am I a strong proponent, I know Senator Boysko is a strong proponent because we talk to each other frequently, make sure our tax dollars come back to Virginia. And so if we don't completely spend all this money, it does go back to the federal government. And so if you don't see a community up here that have applied for the funding, or if you're a nonprofit and you work outside of the Fairfax area, please encourage those localities that you work in. I know you guys are kind of kill me from Fairfax because I'm touting other money, but I want to make sure that we keep our money in Virginia. And so please let folks know, and also our tribal communities as well are eligible, state and federally recognized. And then the last piece, as Senator Boysko talked about earlier, and I talked about, this is the BEAD funding. And so BEAD has both a deployment component and it has a non-deployment. That's what the adoption side is called. And as I called out the $1.48 billion, you'll see Senator Boysko talked about that list we received from NTIA. And so this is actually the full list of all the things that we can do outside of deployment. And so things like promoting broadband affordability. So if there are local subsidy programs, or if we want to partner with Cox to promote their Connect to Compete program within certain targeted communities where there's underutilization and things of that nature. Whether it's folks looking at computer science, coding, and cybersecurity, we're in conversations with Loudoun County Public Schools where they're looking to teach folks some digital manufacturing skills. And so we're looking at how that would fit in this. And so I like to say that if you do something that's not on this list, it's okay. Reach out, write the question on your card, and there may be a way for us to fit it in these categories. And so that actually concludes my presentation this morning. This is our official email for our digital opportunity program within our office. And so with that, I will turn it back over to Catherine.
Thank you so much. So pleased to be back with you. We have two great panels today, and this is the first. I'm so pleased to be able to have some wonderful local government agencies who are focused on closing the digital divide. Of course, it's so important that we have everyone participating in the digital world, and collaborating with our local government partners is so critical. So today we're joined by representatives of Fairfax County Public Schools, Fairfax County Libraries, the county's Department of Family Services, Economic Initiatives, Neighborhood and Community Services, and Community and Housing Development. And each one of the speakers is going to share ways in which the county government agencies are working to ensure that all Fairfax County residents have resources and skills to participate in the digital world. When we're done with the panel, we are going to take questions. There should be index cards on the table, but if there aren't, feel free to rip a page out of your notebook. And if you hand those to the end, we'll be picking those up to ask questions. So let's get started with our speakers. We're going to go from left to right. And I'm going to have Daniel start off introducing yourself and telling us about your agency and what you do.
Thank you, Catherine. My name is Daniel Makbib. I am Assistant Division Director for Workforce Development in the Department of Family Services, Fairfax County. Fairfax County is invested in digital equity and ensuring county residents have the opportunity and resources and the skills to actively participate in this growingly digitally connected world. And the way that we do this work from our perspective, it covers 4 specific angles. One is access to devices, and second is connectivity, including broadband connectivity, and third, skills, digital literacy skills. And fourth, an extension of the third one, which includes tech-ready, tech jobs ready. This is some of the things that we're working on, and I'm happy to share some specific details about what specifically we're doing in all these areas.
Thank you so much. Let's move over to Dustin.
Hi, my name is Dustin Boer. I'm the IT project manager with Fairfax County Public Library. The library, part of our mission is to serve the information and entertainment needs of county residents, and that is increasingly a digital demand that's being put on us. So that's something, because we're a customer-facing agency, we have a lot of people coming in. We really take that seriously, that we need to make sure that we're serving the population as a whole and not just those that are already connected and have the access.
Wonderful. And next we have Teresa.
Hi, I'm Teresa Benacasa. I'm the manager for economic mobility for the Fairfax County Department of Economic Initiatives. We are a county agency that is focused on economic development. We are focused on helping all of our residents and businesses prosper and become economically competitive. We do a lot of work with the small business community and helping them grow and thrive. And I think because we are based in county government, we really have a unique position to work with a lot of our other county partners, both external and internal, and kind of leverage the county resources to advance economic inclusion for all of our communities.
Thanks, Teresa. Next we have Patricia.
Thank you. Hi, good morning. Patricia Riasa. I am the Community Resource Development Manager in the Inclusive Engagement and Targeted Interventions Division at Neighborhood and Community Services. Now my time is up. NCS's mission is really to help folks improve their economic mobility and be civically engaged. And so a lot of our efforts are in making sure that people have the resources, the power, and the tools to be able to do that. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
And next, Amy Ginger. Amy.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Amy Ginger. I'm the Deputy Director of Operations at Housing and Community Development. And in our organization, we do all things housing for low and moderate income families. So we provide homeless prevention and assistance here in Fairfax County. We're also a developer of affordable housing. We do that mostly through partnerships with private developers. And finally, we are a provider of actual housing and rental assistance. We own about 3,800 units of housing here in Fairfax County, and we provide about 5,500 rental subsidy units across the county. In housing, we say that housing is foundational to just about everything in life. So we see digital equity as really starting in the home. I mean, we all walk around with devices all day, but I think it was Dr. Holmes, I'm going to forget, but somebody said that we shouldn't consider our mobile phones a device. So really, our focus is on what type of internet and non-mobile devices do families have in their homes.
Wonderful. And now from Fairfax County Public Schools, we have their Director of Equity, Tara Huon.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tara Huon, and I serve Fairfax County Public Schools as the Director of Equity in the Chief Equity Office. And Fairfax County is in the business of closing access and opportunity gaps and achievement gaps. And specifically, when we think about decreasing the digital divide, we're not only thinking about closing those divides in access, we're also thinking about closing those gaps in design and also in digital use.
Wonderful. Such an amazing panel. Daniel, let's start with you. So my question for you is that the Department of Family Services has several divisions that provide important safety net programs. One of them is the Division of Public Assistance and Employment Services. As the Assistant Division Director for Workforce Development, in what ways does your work ensure Fairfax County residents have the resources and skills to participate and thrive in a digitally connected community?
Thank you, Catherine. As you mentioned, DFS has multiple divisions that support vulnerable families and individuals. And these four angles that I mentioned earlier about access, connectivity, and skills, not only the basic skills, but also the advanced skills that are required in the job market today. We conduct so many programs and activities. Just to give some examples in terms of access, older adults, our Division of Adult and Aging provided about 100 plus devices, including tablets and laptops, to address issues of isolation where older adults who do not have any devices to connect with families and friends. And by that, we also address some of these epidemic around isolation. And similarly, the Division of Domestic Violence, sexual and domestic violence also provides devices, phones, safe and secure, so that survivors can safely connect with needed resources and families and friends. Similarly, specifically in the workforce arena, we understand how access is critically important, not only to do your daily living activities, but also careers. From the very point of applying for jobs, you need that computer. Even if the jobs that you're getting into has nothing to do with computers, you still have to go through that entry-level thing. And so onboarding, interviewing process, many of those people who've never had to deal with it had now the responsibility of getting to know some of the ins and outs of these applications. So it's important that they have the skills they need to effectively and successfully navigate this highly digitized world we live in. And also comes with some of the literacy activities that we conduct. Cybersecurity is another important area that people have to know, because whether you know or not, somehow you are impacted by what's going on in the world of cybersecurity. So equipping residents with some of the basic knowledge of how to be safe and confident in accessing some of the resources that they need to. In the connectivity arena, as we heard this morning, the most popular affordability program has ended, but as was mentioned, many of the internet service providers do have some affordable programs. So much of our work in the connectivity arena is how to help increase awareness of these resources in the community and making sure that these resources are available in various languages. So much of what we've done in this area includes this. The last thing I want to touch on is the career aspect of it. As we know, automation and AI is changing our world every single day. And behind all the technologies that come, there are jobs that change it. Some change it, displaced, some created. And we want to make sure that this change is not widening the economic divide. It's not just the digital divide, but the economic divide. And the way we do this is by making sure that individuals have devices, knowledge, and skills to break into the career opportunities that are much more rewarding and that would give them economic mobility. So part of our work, especially in the workforce arena, includes identifying those jobs and making sure that individuals are ready to take advantage of them.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Dustin, let's go to you next. So the public libraries play such an important role in our society beyond just borrowing books. Tell us how you are helping to close the digital divide for individuals and communities, and especially those that lack access to technology and resources.
Yeah. So the library, as we've looked to expand the kinds of resources that we offer, a lot of that is moving into digital, and in a lot of ways that is increasing access to things like ebooks and audiobooks, language learning, skill learning, some of those job skills. it's also throwing up a barrier to customers or county residents who may not have the devices, the connectivity to access that. And so we have a few different access points that we can provide with that. Kind of the basic one is that we do offer PCs inside the library locations. Those are heavily used in a lot of areas where customers don't have access, particularly people that are coming in researching and applying for jobs, a significant number of unhoused customers that come in to use the computers for various reasons, where there are services and things that they need that they have to be able to connect to an internet device to be able to access that, and a number of children who lack that kind of home access that come in and use the library. We also offer public Wi-Fi. A couple of years ago, we worked with the county's Department of IT to expand that to reach into the parking lots at most of the locations with expanded hours of 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. So even if the library is closed, if a customer has a device, they can connect to the Wi-Fi just by being close to the building and be able to access those resources after hours. In 2021, we piloted a program to offer what we're calling Connect Kits, which include a Chromebook and a mobile hotspot. So this is primarily for customers who don't have Wi-Fi access at home, and that way they're not tied to a location that has Wi-Fi access. The mobile hotspots, they can connect from anywhere. We started off with 25, that was the initial pilot, spread at 5 locations. We tried to target locations where we knew the in-house PC use was high, where there was concentrations of populations that we knew did not have broadband access at home. They were very popular. We had waiting lists at those locations. We were able in 2022 add 75 more with an ECF, the Emergency Connectivity Fund grant. That expanded it to all 22 of our locations. They continued to be popular. And then this past year, we just added 100 more of these kits through regular library funding. We have found that we're able to reach customers with these kits that they're not forced to stay in the library and use our computers. They don't have to be limited where they are, because the mobile hotspots can connect from anywhere and give customers that opportunity to, whether they're using it for work or entertainment or research, whatever they are doing with that they can connect from anywhere to do that. Our long-term plans with this is to continue to expand it. We know that it requires some maintenance as well to keep our fleet intact. So we're kind of working on that. Couple other things that I will mention is that we talk about equity and access, and one of the things that we try to do with that is make sure that we are making the technology accessible to customers that may have disabilities. We're looking at rolling out some software for all of our public computers for low vision customers. So it's Zoom Text and JAWS, which we're hoping to be able to make available to customers there. And we're always looking for new ways. There seems to be an ever-increasing demand for digital material, for new technologies being offered to the public, and we just want to make sure that as we add those, we're taking into account who we might be leaving behind with those new things, and make sure that we try to make them accessible to as many customers as possible.
Thanks, Dustin. Next, let's go to Teresa. So Fairfax County is a top tech location in the country and a hub for tech talent and companies, and even emerging technologies and emerging companies. So because entrepreneurship is so important and creates so many jobs, we know, how has the Department of Economic Initiatives worked out businesses, particularly startups, thrive in this economy?
Yeah, thanks, Catherine. So I think the Department of Economic Initiatives is several different ways we're trying to assist our local businesses become more competitive in terms of accessing digital, in terms of building their business and their capacity. Two programs right out of the gate that we have. We've launched a new portal, a one-stop portal for all of our small businesses to access what is an amazing set of resources that we do have in our community. As many of you know, here in Fairfax, we have a lot of organizations that are here to help local business. We've designed a one-stop online portal that features those services that a small business who's in our community that's getting started can come to the portal and find direct service to help them grow their business. This project is called Connecting Opportunities and Resources to Entrepreneurs, called CORE. We also just administered a very large ARPA grant to our small businesses called the Thrive Small Business Technical Assistance Program, where we essentially connected our local businesses with consultants that provide direct service in marketing, financial planning, and/or business operations. And what we found is that a lot of our businesses impacted by the pandemic are looking to pivot and grow their technical capacity, their digital presence, to be able to get more online customers. And I would say about 50% of our businesses are accessing those consultants to help them build their websites, improve their connectivity with customers through, and be able to sort of pivot, if you will, to the new economy that relies so much on digital communication to be able to acquire customers. But specifically, Catherine, to your point, in Fairfax County, I think digital equity, literacy is not just a skill set and an access issue, it is the economy. Fairfax County is, we want to continue to be known as a place for emerging technology, for IT, for what is essentially the core of our knowledge-based economy. So not only at DEI do we work to support people to become part of it, we support the businesses that are in that space. And one of our innovative programs is called the Founders Fund, the Fairfax Founders Fund, which is essentially grants to new startups that are in our local economy that are building technology-based products. These are the companies and startups that are on the cutting edge of pushing our economy forward. And we have awarded 13 companies in the past year and a half that have competed for this $50,000 award. But really the purpose of the Founders Fund is to help these companies not only grow and in their technology-based products, but we're looking to help them connect to venture capital, more venture capital that might be available to continue to sort of foster Fairfax County as a place to come for innovation and IT technology. So those are some of the projects that we're doing. We also have one more project that we're really excited about that is about called the Talent Up Fairfax Fund, which is essentially an opportunity for employers to create a work-based learning internship in their in place of employment to bring some of our workers that may have been impacted by the pandemic and are considered like underemployed and give them a chance to break into our most high demand fields at the entry and mid-level. So we're looking at IT, healthcare, business operations, finance. So this is a fantastic program that we've launched to try to close the open jobs challenge that we face in the county and grow our workforce here locally through becoming more connected to what is our knowledge-based economy here in the county.
Thank you. Patricia, congratulations. I know the Virginia Recreation and Parks Society recently recognized Neighborhood and Community Services and our Cox partnership with you to wire community centers. Can you share ways that NCS has partnered with other local nonprofits to improve affordable access to devices and digital skills?
Sure, thank you. So like the libraries, NCS has also had for many years the availability of computers and public Wi-Fi in our NCS community centers, teen centers, senior centers, and the like. COVID, I think somebody mentioned earlier, really did force us to learn some lessons. We saw that people became isolated, people lost jobs, some people were able to pivot and maybe start their own small businesses. Some folks were not able to do that maybe due to lack of technical skills, information, or resources. So taking those lessons or that information to mind, we were really excited to be able to get a $1 million grant from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Resources that would allow us to upgrade and enhance our technology equipment and devices, not just at the NCS facilities, but also at nonprofit partner sites. So these upgrades allow us to really address the gaps in accessibility, affordability, but also technical ability. And so by increasing, the engagement and connection of older adults, people with disabilities, and other community residents. So now available at NCS and our partner sites, we have 3D printers, we have VR glasses, we have Cricut machines, we have digital cameras, we have camcorders, video software, and also Chromebooks. So people are going to be able to use these devices and software to really enhance their tech skills, develop maybe small businesses, express themselves creatively, and then also experience the world without having to leave the county. So the grant has also, learning from the public libraries, the grant also has allowed us to expand our public Wi-Fi into the parking lots of the NCS facilities and those nonprofit partner sites that are located strategically throughout all of the county. We also have been able to upgrade equipment that will improve virtual meetings and trainings for older adults, people with disabilities, or other folks who maybe just can't join us in person, so that we're making sure that there are no barriers to the quality of the experience for anybody. So whether you are in person or you are joining us from home or wherever, being able to make those connections and be engaged. So we really are really happy about that. And then we also have at our senior centers and adult day health centers, those upgraded technology devices will help those community residents will encourage and facilitate lifelong learning, so they continue to be connected, to maybe draw down and decrease that sense of isolation, can continue to be engaged and empowered with their engagement in the community and decision making. We're really also excited to, again, learning from our friends at the public library, we're really excited to be able to be launching our NCS technology lending program, which will make available a lot of the devices that I mentioned to folks, so that they can continue that work that they maybe have started at those centers to doing that work at home. We will be doing training so that people understand how to use those devices. So we're not sending folks away with that 80-page booklet. We're going to be walking folks through how to use the devices, how do they maybe can potentially use them to, again, build businesses or enhance their recreational activities. We are also really appreciative of those nonprofit partnerships, because they are uniquely, again, strategically positioned and uniquely positioned to give us that community perspective from the folks that they serve. So they will be able to provide feedback on what's working, what's not working, really help us to troubleshoot any unintended or unforeseen barriers. As somebody I think also mentioned, when we set things up, sometimes we do inadvertently create barriers through program requirements or eligibility. So we're really trying to minimize that as much as possible, so that anybody in the community can take advantage of these resources. And they'll also be able to help us really develop ideas on how to enhance the program. We are obviously also looking for ways to make this as sustainable as possible. We would like to keep this going as the lending program, especially as much as we can, and continue adding resources and tools that will really help folks enrich their lives.
Thank you, Patricia. Amy Ginger from the Housing and Community Development Group, tell us, how have you collaborated with others to increase access to broadband infrastructure, internet, and devices?
Thank you. I guess I would start by saying housing is I always feel like we're a bit in our infancy on this journey. We're sort of in a cultural kind of mind shift, because as providers of housing, we've really historically been focused on the structure, and we haven't focused as much on, we've always focused on amenities, but now internet access is really no longer an amenity. It's really a necessity. It's much more like making sure that there's a laundry room, that there's a washer and dryer, et cetera, in the property. So we are really just beginning to collaborate with some partners, and we're really excited about it. Last year, we collaborated with our friends at Cox to do some internet speed testing at 5 of our properties. We identified those properties based on the Virginia DHCD, I think it's called the Commonwealth Connection Map. So we picked those properties based on their proximity to the red areas where I think there is no broadband infrastructure. So Cox came out and did some testing of those properties because it's not great if you have internet that's super slow and you can't, access the high speed that you need. Thankfully, all 5 of those buildings, even though they are old, had really decent internet upload and download speed. So we're looking to continue to partner with Cox and any of our other internet service providers to continue testing sort of how fast the internet comes into our buildings. And again, sort of learning from libraries and NCS, we have moved towards providing free Wi-Fi in the common areas of our properties. We've done that also thanks to, I think Cox has worked with us to try to lower our overall cost so that we can provide that free Wi-Fi. So even if there's not free Wi-Fi in their units, they can take their devices down to the common areas and access the internet. We also do provide free Wi-Fi at our homeless shelters and at the county's permanent supportive housing shelters. And I believe it is very similar that if somebody just drives up to the property, they can still access the Wi-Fi from outside. And finally, on sort of the devices in our properties that have common areas, we've started to provide internet-connected devices in those areas for free use for our residents. So that might seem very basic, but it's not something that historically we have done. And now we are working with our own properties and with those provided by the private sector to make sure that folks have access to some kind of device that can get them on the internet so they can fill out that job application, they can check in for that doctor's appointment online.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amy. And finally, Tara, we've been such a pleasure to partner with the Fairfax County Public Schools on so many digital and literacy efforts. But can you share how FCPS is working to provide access to the latest tools and resources and foster a dynamic learning environment?
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you once again for having me and allowing us the opportunity to talk a little bit about I shouldn't say us, allowing me to talk a little bit about the opportunity to think about the digital divide with access divide and use as it pertains to the academic side. So one of the things that Fairfax County is doing is utilizing a universal design for learning approach to instruction. And this framework provides educators with an opportunity to attune to and adjust to the human uniqueness and human variability in our school system. It also provides us opportunities to leverage education technology to make sure we are attuning to and adjusting for those opportunities. And so one of the ways that we do that is optimizing choice and autonomy in the classroom. And when we do that, we're developing student agency in the learning process. And we know that the research tells us when we optimize student agency, that we are increasing student engagement, we are fostering motivation, and we are increasing student efficacy. Another way that we are utilizing universal design for instruction is by leveraging educational technology to provide multiple modalities for student expression. And this helps us remove barriers that are present in the education system. Sometimes we unintentionally problematize people who are experiencing marginalization instead of recognizing and problematizing the barriers that create that marginalization. So universal design provides us opportunities to remove those barriers and leverage education technology to provide student expression, and particularly to the students who have experienced marginalization in our systems. And then finally, we leverage technology, really thinking about that digital use divide. I know this morning you've heard a lot about that digital access divide, but we need to really make sure that as we're increasing digital access, we are not unintentionally causing further inequities by the way that our students engage with these platforms. Because when you think about that digital use divide, we have a group of folks, a group of children who sometimes engage with technology in ways that help them create. And sometimes we have a group of students who are passively engaging with technology and are not using that to create. So we want to make sure that when we focus on that digital use, as well as that digital access, that we are creating opportunities for our students to not only be consumers of technology, but to use that to create. And finally, we know that when we decrease inequity in any one opportunity, it helps us to decrease inequities in other opportunities. For example, when Fairfax County graduates students prepared for the workforce, that also means that they're going to be prepared for wages that help them with healthcare. That also means that we're going to have students who are prepared to help us decrease that economic divide. That means that we're going to have students who are realizing their dreams of home ownership. That means, like you see this web, that means that if we have home ownership, that we're going to have families who create generational wealth. So when we decrease access and opportunity divides in our school system, we set up a future for folks to decrease those inequities in other systems.
Thank you so much, and thanks to our awesome panel.
I'm Karen Berube. I'm Senior Vice President at Inova and Chief of Community and Health Equity. And we are so happy to be hosting everybody today. I always think when I get around a group of people who are here to support digital equity, healthcare equity, economic stability, I have arrived with my people. And certainly this morning, I have felt like you all are my people. So I'm really glad that we all came together and we're working together. As we heard a lot this morning, it is really imperative that we bridge that digital divide so that everybody has access, not only to their health records, which of course is imperative to us that people be able to go on my chart that Catherine talked about, but also for our kids to be able to do their homework and for people to get the resources they need to be able to apply for jobs. So I think as we've heard this morning, we really are all interconnected. And I'm so proud to live in an county where we really understand that that connectivity is what's crucial to build our communities and that all communities should rise together. And so hopefully Catherine will be willing to do this again next year because I have learned so much. I learned so much last year and I learned so much again this year. So I really appreciate that. And so at Inova, we kind of learned early on that we really can't do and be everything to everybody around health equity. And so we pulled together our nonprofit partners through what we call our health equity grants. And I think that it is imperative that we understand that there are people in our communities, our nonprofit partners, who are doing the exceptional work every day. And so with us today for this panel, who is doing that great work, is the English Empowerment Center, Computer Corps, and Tech for Troops. So please help me in welcoming them today. And I think we're going to start with each of you sharing a little bit about the work that your organization is doing to ensure equity and inclusion for all of our community members. So we're going to start with each of you and kind of go down, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Can you hear me? So, okay, thank you to Inova and to Cox for putting on this wonderful event. We really appreciate being invited. My name's Donna James. I'm the Executive Director of Computer Corps, and I'm going to read something, and then I'm going to tell you why I'm reading it. At Computer Corps, we empower individuals to embrace technology by removing barriers to access. We provide free refurbished computers to those who might be hesitant to learn. And we provide free online classes, primarily online, but before joining our Zoom classrooms, each participant, who are adults, receives personalized support, including up to 5 hours of one-on-one coaching and in-person instruction tailored to their needs. Plus, our 24/7 help desk ensures they have ongoing assistance whenever they need it. By offering these resources, we're not just teaching skills, we're transforming lives. And I read that because that's AI. So I just wanted to tell you, we're using it all the time, and they had wonderful words. So that's my introduction, and then we'll go more into what we do.
Thank you.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Mark Casper. I'm the President and CEO of Tech for Troops. That was awesome, by the way. What we do is we elevate under-resourced veterans and active duty that is under-resourced as well, them and their families, so they can actually bridge the digital divide, what we've been talking about this whole morning. And we do that providing free computers, free training, 5,000 free classes online. We refurbish as well as we recycle and reuse. So when we recycle, we're at about 1.5 million tons in the last 10 years, keeping it out of the landfill. And we also have a veteran suicide prevention program. How many of you out there know how many vets commit suicide per day? About 22 a day, right? So that number fluctuates, and that's not just Greater War on Terror, Iraq, Afghanistan. That is a buddy of mine 2 years ago. I was in from 83 to 87 in the Marine Corps. He took his life 2 years ago. So it's sad. Our tagline is aiming for zero. So that's Tech for Troops: refurbish, education, suicide prevention, and recycling.
Again, thank you, everyone, for hosting this, and I really appreciate all of you that stuck around. My name is Michael Marr. I'm with the English Empowerment Center. Some of you may know us as the Literacy Council of Northern Virginia. We teach English to those that understand, to adults that understand English at a 6th grade level or lower. We help about 2,000 individuals in Northern Virginia annually. And they come from 90 different countries, speak over 50 different languages and dialects. And so you can imagine how they feel when they are confronted with a computer when some of the letters don't even make sense to them. A lot of our folks are doctors and professors in their native country. Others aren't literate in their own language and may never have even picked up a pencil, let alone type on a computer. And just real quickly, of the over 1,500 folks that we surveyed, of those, only 493 had a computer. So when Jeff McKay said there's 7,000 individuals that lack a computer in Fairfax County, if you do the math, 1,000 of those are people that are coming to us.
Thank you. So we often say in community health that if you come into community health, it's because it's at the core of who you are. You don't really come into this work to get rich. You come into it because you have a passion for this work and you want to make a difference. And I'm curious from each of you, what got you interested in equity and inclusion work? And we can start with you, Don.
Okay. Yeah, I was prepared for the what got me interested in digital equity.
Well, but either way, sorry.
So the first one's actually easier. So I've spent most of my career in nonprofit work, helping people. The current parlance is underserved and non-traditional for, in this case, for tech careers. But I have been working in this type of field for a long time. So I've been at Computer Corps 5 years, and I've known about Computer Corps for all 25 years of our history. I knew the founder, I still know the founder, and the other director who was there for about 10 years. So, it's a really important anchor community institution, but my personal background has been in education and workforce development, primarily around teenagers and young adults. So the fun things for me at Corps have been working with adults many are my contemporaries. And as you were saying, many are professionals in their field. We do serve a large immigrant audience, so that was a little different than some of the folks that I've served before. And then tech, in a lot of ways, some of the things we're learning and teaching in tech have been new to me as well. So I'm a learner right alongside our students, which is part of our, our spirit at Computer Corps. But I will say that what got me into the digital equity part when I saw this job and I said, this is the one, is my mom, who would have been 84, and she was on the Alexandria City Council from 1994 to 2000. And she was one of the first people who started the IT Commission and thought about thinking ahead. We need to have, this is important. We need internet for all. We need to really worry about these things. A little early, she had a Gateway computer. She was leasing computers. She was always, she bought a book. She was really into buying those dummies books for, whatever the subject is. So to get on Facebook, she bought like a 500-page book and read the whole thing to get on Facebook. But I do this work in honor of my mother.
Thank you. That's lovely.
So my story is sort of the same. My wife is an educator as well, and she worked in a very rural school. This was, 10 years ago now plus. And she would come home and tell me the horror stories of kids who were living in abandoned homes, living in cars, not eating, all of the stories that we hear and we know, but they're true. And that's the worst part. So that became near and dear to my heart. It wasn't about computers, but about the educational piece. And then in December 2015, I was asked to be on the board of Tech for Troops. So when I approached the door, I knew I was home, quite literally, like, bam. It was the most amazing thing I've ever felt. And we had 750 square feet, took the tour in about 2.5 minutes. And the founder looked at me and said, "Do you want to be executive director?" And I was like, yeah, absolutely, right? I had my own successful company. I shut it down immediately, literally shut it down. And now we're at 8. This was October 2016, I took over. Now we're at 8,000 square feet, and I'm looking to buy a building because the need is great, as every one of us know. The need is there, and it's not just in the rural areas, it's in the urban areas, it's in the suburban areas, as we all get. But that's my story, and I'm gonna stick to it, y'all.
Thank you.
So when I graduated college, I went to work for a PR firm, and all the clients were nonprofits. And I really got the bug. My father spent his whole entire career working in nonprofits. And so my whole career has been working with nonprofits in it. But when it comes, and I also serve on, for those that know it, the Fairfax County Community Action Advisory Board. And so being part of the community, trying to help the community is very important to who I am. But when it comes to digital equity, what really got me is the English Empowerment Center has always taught technical skills. And we've partnered with great organizations like Computer Corps for 20 years. But it was the pandemic. Prior to COVID, all of our classes were in person. And we serve all of the 450 square miles of Northern Virginia. When COVID hit and social distancing requirements took effect, I'm very proud to say within 3 weeks, we were up and running with online classes. And we had 75% of our learners online in those 3 weeks. But what we had to do is really use our volunteer force. We have over 500 volunteers, and we contacted our multilingual volunteers. And for those that we had contact information, we contacted all of our learners and had to walk many of them through how to set up a Zoom account. Not only that, how do you hit mute on this? And so once the classes were going, the teachers came back to us and said, we're not teaching instruction. Many of our learners are just lost and confused of what's going on. Fairfax County did great work on community services during the pandemic and actually translated a lot. But 7% of Fairfax County lives in linguistic isolation. I mean, it's one thing to have this information, it's quite another to make sure everyone has access to it. And so our teachers, for the first couple weeks, all they did is spend time with our learners going over the different community services that were provided by the county. And so we say often that, English changes lives, but we really feel that we saved lives during that time.
Thank you all for sharing your passion with us. I think we could all feel that from what you share, not just around digital equity, but your passion for the work. So thank you. Michael, we'll start with you. English language skills and digital literacy are essential for obtaining and keeping a family sustaining, supporting children in school, participating in community life, obtaining community service, and accessing further education and training. What strategies has the English Empowerment Center found to be effective in addressing not only access, but also digital literacy for our underserved communities?
So I went into it a little bit. So when we created these online classes during the pandemic, we also realized that that also helped with two significant barriers that our population has, and that was transportation and childcare. And so by providing online access, it offered a larger population the opportunity to learn English and succeed in our county. But like I said, you know, over 1,000 of our learners don't have a computer. Now, the majority of them do have smartphones. And as was discussed earlier, I mean, can you imagine having to take a 2-hour class 2 or 3 days a week just on your cell phone? And so it is quite difficult. One of the things we did is one of our programs, we have an intensive program where it meets 4 days a week. You can't do that on a cell phone. So we applied for and got money through the state, through the Virginia Department of Social Services, along with some private funding. And we started a laptop loaner program. And so for this class, all the learners can receive a laptop to one, if it's an online class, or two, there's a lot of educational programs that we use with the computer as well. But we also found, you know, many of our learners could come in, fill out the paperwork, take that laptop and go. Majority of them couldn't. And so we created this huge packet on how to set up a password, username, everything. And then the one thing that wasn't discussed today that I think is super important is if you're introducing somebody to the internet and they're having digital access for the first time, is digital security. You have to inform them of things to be careful about, what to look for. And so all of our learners through this program have to come in and go through a whole orientation so that we can make sure that they're safe, as well as understand the computers. We also use mobile apps as supplemental education to our programs, and we use 4 different programs. We created an app ourselves through CellEd, but then found our capacity to, as things changed, to keep it going just didn't make sense. And so the other thing too is access. So the majority of our learners do not have internet access, and we have informed them of Cox's great program. But over 50% of our learners earn below the federal poverty line. Does anybody know what that is for a family of 4? A family of 4 living on $31,000. So even though there are great programs out there and reduced, I mean, $10 a month, that could be the difference between internet access or feeding your family a meal. Also love all the things Fairfax County is doing with the libraries and the community centers and providing internet access. But, you know, they're closing earlier and on Sundays, but their parking lot will still have the internet access. Most of our folks don't drive cars. It's going to be cold soon. They're working multiple jobs. The only time they can access this internet is when they're closed. And so I think with One Fairfax, we just got to keep in mind all of these things, and we advocate for it all the time. Is, you know, it's digital equity. There is a digital divide, but it's when we're planning these things, what is equitable?
Thank you. That was great. So next question is for you, Donna. Computer Corps is one of many nonprofits working in the region to provide adult learners with foundational digital and professional skills. How do you think we can better support individuals in navigating online resources and services, especially those who are less familiar with technology?
Okay. Thank you for the question. Much like the English Empowerment Center, during COVID, we changed our modus operandi to be primarily online. We have about 600 adults, primarily from Fairfax County, that we serve each year online, and we're teaching also a very largely immigrant population. Often we get folks who've learned some English at the English Empowerment Center, and then they come to us when they can understand a little better online. And I'm sure Michael's seen a lot of the same things where we have people who, again, and he mentioned as well, some people have advanced degrees in their countries, but they're dealing with a different alphabet. But we also have people who've never touched a computer. And the accessing of any type of services, so many of which are digital, and my colleague reminded me that FEMA right now, helping out our neighbors to the south, is it's all digital. So how are people without electricity or computers or devices or the knowledge of how to use them getting their information? It's really, really difficult. A lot of what we deal with is helping people gain confidence when they receive a machine to keep. We've given away about 2,500 computers since COVID, and we help people just as you do, learn how to use the machine, how to turn it on, how to safely turn it off, how to be secure on the internet, how to do their internet browsing, how to find services. And then just to go, let's say someone's trying to apply to community college, you have to click about 15 times to get how to sign up, what is the class, how to pay, how to get your benefits, if you're getting a scholarship. And then if you're in the classes, so many places you have to click. Obviously telehealth, is so incredibly important, understanding how to get on my chart. And again, a lot of what we teach is not being terrified. Yeah. It's those of us who just do it all the time, we don't even think it's scary. But a lot of people are really afraid to touch that machine. Even though they might be good on their cell phones, they're just so hesitant. They're afraid they'll break it. They're afraid they'll mess something up. So a lot of what we've been doing lately is actually encouraging people to play with their computer, to get on it in between our online classes and to make sure they just have that comfort level. So I think that's a lot of what we end up doing. And the other thing is we really provide very low barriers to entrance. So we have, it is an online form, but we've made it very simple. We help the students sign up on the online form. We help them log into a couple places where they can get information with us. We have, of our, again, very new learners, we have hundreds and hundreds of learners using Slack to communicate with each other. They're also logging into North Star Digital Literacy, thousands of learners on there to learn, and they're gaining this comfort level as they do that. And then we have a 24/7 help desk. So it is a message-only help desk. You leave a message, and then we call you back and answer your question, but that also builds that comfort level and confidence. So I think that helps those new hesitant learners.
Thank you. That's great. I should probably sign up.
You're welcome.
Mark. And bring my mother, who's 85 and still trying to get on the computer, but I do think she's afraid it's going to bite her. So that's great skills to learn. Mark, in addition to supporting veterans and their military families with technology skills and training, Tech for Troops has taken an innovative approach to leverage technology to improve the mental health of veterans. And based on what you said earlier, that's just an imperative. And I think we would love if you could share a little bit about Tech for Troops Game Corps.
Thank you so much, Karen. Yeah, that's a near and dear to my heart program. One, because of my buddy, but two, I know a lot of other veterans whose friends have committed suicide. So literally, I was in a staff meeting, and one of the new guys that I had just hired, name is Jason. He's sitting in the far corner back there, right? Not as big a room as this, of course, but sitting back there, and I'm like, I want to have a gaming event. And he looked at me, he's like, me, what do you mean? What do you want to do? What do you do? I'm like, I don't know, I don't game. Those little things they put in their hands and they do that thing with, I don't know. And he's like, I got it. And that was about 2 years ago now. And we've saved 13 lives in the last 16, 17 months. And that's an amazing thing because it's not just, hey, you okay, saved your life, you're on your own. It's not, because we created a digital community of Discord and Twitch. Does everybody know what Discord and Twitch is? Most of you do? No? Discord is your texting, but with videos and other ways of communicating. You can get in private chat rooms and stuff, right? So we have our own Discord, and then we also use Twitch. Anybody know what Twitch is? Yes, yes, yes. Everybody know? It's Netflix for video games. Okay, you can pick what you want to watch and watch it. So we've created this community where if somebody's in stress, somebody tells us, I haven't showered in 2 weeks and I'm not doing good, and that happens, my 15 moderators will get on and they'll work with this guy or gal to, hey man, just take a shower. It's okay. And then when you get the shower done, go wash the dishes. Because you haven't done dishes in 2 weeks, have you? No. And then they start their life over again. But if they are, and this is graphic and I understand it, but if they're putting a gun in their mouth, my guys talk to them, my gals too, sorry, but guys are generic. They talk to them and they call 988. Everybody know what 988 is? It's a suicide hotline, National Suicide Hotline. And we hand them off because we're not counselors. We can't call a mental health institution and say, hey, get Johnny in there because he's about to blow his head off. We can't do that. So we work with 988 to make that happen. But what we do afterwards is we contact them and say, are you okay? Come on, man, let's play a game. So example, a guy that I know, a friend of mine now, gamer, we use driving as well. So we don't play a lot of bang bang games because that's a little triggering at times, but we do a lot of other things like Fortnite, if anybody's ever seen Fortnite, or Rocket League, right? So they're fun games, they're happy games, and you can get some in there. Oh, and by the way, our community is not F-bombs. We have moderators people who wanted to be our moderators, and we go back in time and look at them. And if they're dropping F-bombs left and right, we're no thank you. That's not who we are because it's family friendly. We need the children to be involved. We need the wife or the husband to be involved because that's where the care is going to come from in the home. So as we're doing this and as we're creating this Discord and Twitch in this community, we're reaching more and more and more. And one of the cool things, and I don't think anybody in here knows because we've kept it under wraps, hopefully we'll announce in about 2 weeks, is we're going to be putting in gaming rigs in mental health institutions. And for veterans who are in bed, if you're in a bed in an institution for 4 weeks, 24 hours a day, you don't have a whole lot to do on your downtime, right? You see your therapist, you might go to the equine therapy or something along those lines, but then after that, there's nothing. But what happens when you get out? When you can't come back to your doctor and say, hey, I got problems. I'm gonna fall back into opioid, or I'm gonna start drinking again, or whatever that thing is, what happens? They fall back into it because it's 24 hours in a day, and what is your brain wired to do? Go back to doing what you normally do. So we're creating a Discord, and well, not creating, we have it so when they get out of therapy, they have the immediate care, the continuity of care. So when they're out, they can reach out to my guys and gals and still get support and get that help that they desperately are gonna need until they get clean and sober. So we've talked about this at work a lot, and Jason, my game master, that's his title, by the way, is Game Master. Really cool, right? He wanted to be called like Command Sergeant Major, and I'm like, no, we're not gonna go that far. That's a military term. But he's an opioid survivor, 3 TBIs, suicide survivor. He knows what he's talking about when he's talking about this stuff. And I've learned from him that this is what we need to do. And that's where we're going. That's what we're gonna do. Our prayer is that we get it into every hospital out there that needs help with their veterans. And then, of course, the children of the veterans as well. How many know how long a kid can stay in a mental health institution that's being paid for by the VA? Anybody? 8 months. Think about that. You're 14 years old and you're spending 8 months in a hospital. That's a long time, y'all. So we're actually gonna create it in our gaming community while there for the parents and for the kids, that we're gonna have game nights for the families. So they're able to stay in communication while they're away from each other. I mean, that's the direction we're going in. There's a lot of other organizations that do suicide prevention, but we think that continuity of care is the better way of doing it rather than just one and done. We're not one and done. We're like methodical about what we do and who we support and how we do it. So that's what we're doing.
Thank you. Wow, that's inspiring. So how can the rest of us get involved, and this is for all of you, and collaborate with each of you to kind of bridge that digital divide in Fairfax County?
Well, that's a hard act to follow, but you're doing great work. So ways that people can help, Mike was also mentioning all the volunteers. All of our instructors are volunteers, so being a volunteer instructor, which can be easy for transportation, childcare, et cetera, because it's online, in our case, most of it. We also do meet our clients in person at various locations, so we use some of the workforce development spaces. I love this space here. You know, there's lots of people who have space where we can meet clients and do some one-on-one instruction. Computer donations, so each of you in your closet probably has a pile of laptops. I'm always hearing from people, oh yeah, I have a pile of laptops in my closet. Bring them over, we refurbish them and give them to, and we can provide our email address, I'm sure, is somewhere, but Killian, who's in the audience, is often the one who accepts those computers, and then we refurbish them. Volunteers, again, do that, and we give them away. Knowing what the skill needs are out there, so if you're seeing specific things, that is the gap between someone who doesn't have a job or has a job, incumbent workers, but could get a promotion, could not be, you know, on that, where they're underpaid or not achieving their potential because of some skill gap, let us know. And we've also really enjoyed there's many internship work-based learning programs around from various county agencies, and one was Talent Up that was referenced earlier, and we're enrolling many of our students in these work-based learning programs, and then they come and work for us, help manage the help desk and other services, because they're getting jobs at higher rates, those folks who do the internship. So it's been really interesting.
So how can Tech for Troops help in Fairfax, or how can you help us as well? I think there's multiple ways of doing that. One is, give me a call, let me know what you need up here, right? So we get in not just computers, we get in, and one of the things we just did when Hurricane Helene went through North Carolina is I had body bags donated to me about 9 months ago. And I accepted them because they were $2,000 each, and I'm thinking, I can sell those, put $200,000 in the bank and continue my program. We couldn't sell them. For some reason, nobody wanted them. So when Hurricane Helen hit, I sent 2 of my guys down to North Carolina. They're still there. I'm paying for them to go off Tech for Troops dime. I'm okay with that. But I looked at both of them the night before they left, and I said, take my body bags. So they're down there doing that. So all that being said, we get in stuff. We have 85-inch TVs. We have smart boards, we have stereos. I got a museum from 1926 to Apple gear to TTY machines. We keep all that because that's just cool stuff. But we do the recycling and reuse as well. So if you have stuff, let me know. Happy to get it, right? There has to be a certain amount for me to drive up from Richmond to pick it up. But we could do a collection point. We did one with Cox at the beach, at Virginia Beach last year. We'd love to do one up here as well and have that gear come in. But as well, if you have a constituency, and you guys are already doing it, so I'd love to offer my services to you, we'd be happy to come in and help you with your training as well. You guys are doing it already, I know that. Or computers, desktops and laptops. We get in cell phones, tablets, all those things, and we're happy to help with that as well. So really, that's it. If we have that symbiotic relationship where you're saying, Mark, I have a warehouse full of stuff, will you come get it? What is it? Yes, we will. We'll pick it up, we'll sort it, we'll reuse what we can reuse, and we'll recycle responsibly, keep it out of the landfill. Everything else, 1.5 million tons so far in 10 years. So I think that's where we are. If you want my card, please ask. Or Catherine knows who I am, and we'll make it happen that way.
Thank you.
Well, as a development person, I'd be remiss to say donations number one. Second is, as Donna said, volunteers. We have a volunteer force of 500, but can always use more, and it's not just instructors. There's class aides, there's assessment specialists, and one of the other things that forgot to mention earlier is that we have learner advisors. And so as a learner is progressing through and we can tell is near the end of their journey with us, then we team them up with a student advisor. What is it you want to do after this? Go on to further education, job, other things. And so then we help them with that. So volunteers are always needed. Cross referrals is very important for those organizations here that Donna talked about. You know of anyone that has very little English skills, please direct them towards us. That's very important. And then, as both of them said, you know, donate your computers, because I often send folks that don't have it to Donna. So Donna needs as many computers as she can get her hands on so that she can help us as well.
If I could, there's one thing. We also guarantee data security. So if Inova wanted to donate their computers to us, we either wipe it completely clean, and if it's reusable, we'll reuse it. If not, we'll take the hard drive out, and we have a hard drive shredder, and we shred it, period. And there's a certificate of destruction if you're looking for a certificate of destruction, like serial number, and you get to see the shred. We actually do videos of the shreds. So that's our base, that's our floor, and then everything else works off from that, because without the trust that you give to us with your data, then we're not gonna receive anything, we're not gonna be able to help any veterans and their families.
Great to know. Thank you.
We
So
provide
have
the certificate too, but we don't have the video.
Sorry. Okay, so we have 2 questions from our audience. So whichever one of you thinks could best answer it. Besides your nonprofit, who do you see or think is leading the way or doing innovative digital equity work?
Definitely, there's a nonprofit out of Houston called CompuDopt. Her name is Megan Steckley, is the executive director, CEO, and she's a friend, and I love her to death. And yeah, she's got 49 locations across the United States, I think it is. When COVID hit, she had 2, Houston and Galveston, I believe it is, and I might be wrong on all the numbers, but I'm pretty close. And now she's at 49 in the last 4 years. So she's jumped up 47. Math, strong point. 49 minus 2 is 47. So I would definitely throw out there Megan Steckley of CompuDopt.
Thank you. Great. Okay, one more question from the audience. What have you seen to be the most effective strategy in reaching or increasing awareness of what is available to the communities you work with? I think this is a great question because we have the same issue with our clinics. How do we let everybody know about the incredible services that are out there in Fairfax County?
I'll take this one. This actually, we created a guide called Snapshot. And what we had found is that our learners, for different services provided, it's very difficult for them to locate. So what we did in very simple English, put together a whole resource guide on different community services, mainly within Fairfax, but also including City of Alexandria and Arlington County as well. And then what our teachers do, incorporate this in their lesson plan to go over it. Now we have this online with links to the different services, but this seems so important. We actually got funding to actually print enough of these for 2 years to actually hand deliver to all of our learners.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Well, please help me in saying thank you to this incredible panel and welcoming Catherine back to the stage.
Thank you so much. Great job, Karen. Thank you so much. And thank you to Inova and Karen for this awesome opportunity. I just want to close out by saying thanks to all the attendees for your engagement, all the great things you do in the community. Thank you to all of our speakers. Wow, I learned so much today, and I'm super grateful for that. Thanks to Inova, Karen, Phyllis, who's out here, Dominic, Mike, Terrence, the whole team that made this an unbelievable day. But thank you all again. Thank you for being a part of Digital Inclusion Week, and have a great day.